Societies are built by those who establish themselves economically. They then pass this on to their progeny. The purpose of marriage, again, is not about curing loneliness and having access to the opposite sex. Having children isn't about thinking kids are cute. If a man does not have something to pass down to his children, marriage is pointless. If all you're looking for is sex and companionship, you don't need to get married for that. If you want to talk about redistribution of wealth, this is what marriage is truly about. The wealth the parents built is kept in and maintained by the family. There's a passage in Scripture of God telling the Israelites to only marry within their tribe. This law was about the proper distribution of wealth, as it kept inheritances within the tribe so no tribe became poor. This necessitated people build wealth and then hand it down to the next generation. The king of an empire seeks to prepare his successor, which will often be his own children. Your children are not supposed to start from zero. Somewhere along the line, someone is supposed to build something to endure for multiple generations, where the children will build on the foundation which was laid. This is what dynasties are by definition. Your money and everything you built is worthless if it all goes away when you die and your offspring can't benefit from it. Many today will strike it rich and ride off into the sunset with all their money and possessions. You look at the state of their children and it's an absolute travesty. The kids aren't prepared to do anything but fail. Parents need to prepare their children to take over the empire. Instead, they spoil them thinking their children won't have as hard a life as they did growing up. In reality, doing this will ensure the children will have a much harder life than they did. Not in their childhood, but once they grow up and have to go out into the real world, not only without any resources, but without the wherewithal to compete and build anything. They'll expect the world to treat them the way their parents did as kids, so they'll spend their time whining about the world not coddling them, believing the world owes them something. Buying your kids all the toys and allowing them to live in a nice place doesn't build character. Not to say children can't have privilege, but they need to be ready to get out there and compete. They need to see all the great things you have achieved and then understand how you got these things. They must know the hard work, dedication, and discipline it took to get where you got. Children should be groomed from a young age to either take over the reins or start their own empire. Your kids are supposed to have a better life than you, not go backwards. Some will argue the kids need to figure it out on their own. A group where every generation starts from scratch will never prosper. For every successful individual who becomes a Michael Jordan or a Jay-Z, you'll have 10 generations of lifelong wage slaves living on public assistance. This is how a group of people remain at the bottom of the barrel as economic squatters in a labor class. Others will argue those who don't have children cannot know how to parent children. The obvious flaw in this thinking is those who've had children are clueless on how to raise them, as demonstrated by how their children turned out. The other problem with this is parenting isn't the same as riding a bike or learning how to drive a car, where you learn through experience. Parenting is similar to engineering or being a doctor. There are things you need to know and understand through years of training, long before you step into the field. Telling someone they never had kids so they don't know is absurd, and is usually forwarded by people who have failed in their duty as parents. You can't argue with results. It doesn't matter how much money you have or how many things you own. If you are unable to translate these assets to your children, you may have exceptional wealth, but you do not have generational wealth. I disagree with those who talk about wealth, saying you can't take it with you. Unfortunately, with wealthy people dying and the fortune disappearing, this is something which happens all too often.